Morning, everybody, and welcome to Chamber Live, which is our fortnightly event to give you all the latest news and views from your Chamber team. Also to let you know about membership and offers, services, what's coming up, what's going on across Greater Manchester, and obviously speaking to some of our members and patron members. This morning, we are welcoming Shaun, who's the Chief Executive of Manchester Central. We're going to be having a chat with him, and also Susanna and Charlie from the Halle, who are patron members. So welcome to everybody and welcome to our speakers. And I will hand over to Shaun. Do you want to give us a little bit of an overview, Shaun, and then we'll ask some questions, have a chat?
Yeah, morning everybody. Most people will be aware that the convention centre, as we know it, has been a Nightingale hospital during the pandemic. We're actually at a really interesting time right now because we literally are in the throes of decommissioning the hospital and returning it to an events venue, which has been a long time coming. I have to say, throughout all of these last few months, we've had times, even back last autumn, where we thought there was the potential for the venue to be at least partially decommissioned. But anyway, it's finally happened. And it's going to take us slightly longer, actually, to take it down than it did to put it up. We kind of famously put it up in 12 days from a dormant convention centre into a fully working hospital. It's probably going to take us until around about the 20th of June, funnily enough, which kind of coincides with the roadmap as well, to get the venue fully decommissioned and returned into its sort of former glory. Incredible amounts of detail, lots of being the building that it is. It's a grade 2 star listed building. There's all sorts of little nuances and quirks that the building has that we look after, and we've got to make sure that we do the right job in getting it back. But look, it's straight back into it though, because we're actually getting the venue to a point where we can run the elections starting next week. So as is always the case with Manchester, we are the venue for the elections. It's quite a big one. Obviously, last year's elections got postponed, so we've got a kind of rollover in terms of that. We've also got the mayoral elections as well, taking place around the 5th and 6th of May. So a lot of activity going on around there. And then following that, we get straight back into the final part of decommissioning, ready to start running events again, hopefully, sometime in the summer. Although, we wait with eager anticipation around the next milestones on the roadmap, because they will be the key trigger points for us to let us know whether or not we're going to be able to run the kind of events that everybody would be used to us running. So really interesting times, actually, but a definite sense of the direction and the destination now, which I think many of us, in previous months have probably struggled with. So in that sense, good news.
Brilliant. That's good. And what's the current position, Shaun? Is it totally, like you say, decommissioning it now as the Nightingale? Is it totally gone? That's it.
It's not totally. It's a lot of work going on in getting it put back into its former shape. We had some fairly heavy-duty industrial installations around infrastructure that was put into the venue. I mean, the venue is 140 years old, right? So when you convert it into a brand new COVID secure hospital, if you like, there was quite a lot of extra stuff that had to be loaded in, and so all of that takes a bit of time to get decommissioned properly, and we're working with the NHS and various partners on doing that. But it's all underway. I'm pleased to say also that many of the Manchester Central team and many of our partners and contractors are involved in that decommissioning as well. We were quite keen to ensure that we could give as much activity and occupation, if you like, to as many of our normal business partners as possible. So where we can, we're utilizing those local skills, our own staff, to actually do that work. And it's like your own house. When you're looking after you do it with a little bit of extra care and attention. And so we were much more comfortable in restoring the building if we had that control. And so that's what we're doing. But it's interesting because the way that the diary is looking now, for obvious reasons, the immediate calendar of events, which was going to be, May, June, July, most of that activity has already shifted because a lot of the organizers and the event owners took the decision, maybe a couple of months, 3 months ago, to move their event further into the year. So normal activity for Manchester Central is probably more likely to be September, October, before we see the sort of traditional events. But that said, what this pandemic has done, it's triggered a few fundamental changes in the industry. We've seen the emergence of virtual events, much like this, but also on a much bigger scale as well, normal 2-3 day conventions going fully online and stuff like that. So there's elements of that. There's also elements of hybrid, where you'll have some participation in a space, and you'll have a lot of online viewership as well. And so we're gearing up for that, and have been making investments into the venue in preparation for that. So we've already launched our Live from the Auditorium, which is a theatre-based product where you can run a complete virtual event with a theatre staging and space for a partial audience. And then furthermore, in some of our rooms at the front of the venue, we've reconfigured that permanently to become a TV studio. So we can offer professional organisers the ability to hub their real event with an online studio. So much like if you're watching the Olympics or one of the big football matches, you'll have that in-arena studio where the presenter is, if you like, curating your experience. And we're looking to offer that same capability. So the studio, Live from the Auditorium, are two initiatives that we've developed within the venue, and we hope to be able to run those alongside live events once we get going. But the big question mark is the summer, because we're going to have the venue back in June, and we're mostly full. As most people that know the venue know, we're quite an active space in the city. There's always something going on. This summer's going to be different, so we're working hard at the moment to see what type of activity we could program within Manchester Central, possibly more, consumer events, leisure events, activities, things that residents and visitors can get involved with. So more to come. A lot of planning going on at the moment to see if we can pull those off. We don't know what the restrictions will be by the time we get to July, so we're kind of working various different scenarios. But we're hopeful that one way or another, we'll have some really interesting things going on in the venue in the summer in preparation for a return to kind of more normalized activity by the time we get, past the school holidays and we're back into September, October.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think everybody's in the same boat. Even if you're a small venue, we're having the same conversations now. It's almost de-risking, what you're booking and what your plan, isn't it? We were talking the other day with Susanna and Charlie actually about people were saying you book something and it's a disappointment, isn't it? So it's almost you want to book things in that are definitely going to go ahead. Like you said, planning for the hybrid is pretty much essential now for everybody. It's a huge.
For you, what's interesting, Diane, is that the organisers are kind of, some are struggling to get their heads around what it means and how you operate it. Because what I think we've learned for an engaging online experience, you've got to put a bit of effort into it. It's got to look like you are, you're watching a kind of TV broadcast quality output. If you're just standing at the back of the room with an iPhone, filming something, thinking you've got yourself a virtual event, you're going to be sorely mistaken. So where a lot of the organisers are thinking right now is, how they work out the new commercial model of, a high quality, broadcast quality digital output alongside all of the excitement, vibrancy and dynamism of a real life event. And it's a different discipline, and I think we'll see new talents and new skills emerging as we kind of blend those two elements. And I have to say, it seems like a cliche, but it will be like watching, good quality sporting events on the telly. If you take that as your benchmark, then that's kind of what you're aiming for, in my opinion.
Absolutely, it is. And I suppose that's making sure people have a positive experience with it and not dismissing the fact that we're probably going to need this for quite a long time, to manage the people who aren't safe or don't feel safe.
What excites me, right, is if you own an event, and you've got all of the IP and all of the the other content that exists alongside that event. The prospect to create digital output almost on a year-round basis, to create digital engagement on a year-round basis is actually quite incredible. You know, one of the challenges in real life events is they happen once a year, right? For those 2 or 3 days, you've got this incredible hub of activity, and any venue becomes the center of the world for that industry during that time. But what all event organizers and owners struggle with is how do you maintain that engagement and connection as you go through the year? And what these circumstances of the last 12 months have done, that they really kickstarted that potential. And so the smart organizers, and I think the winners in all of this, are going to be those organizations that see the event as much more than just 2 or 3 days in May or June or July. It's going to be the ones that see it as an all-round kind of industry, sector, association, discipline engagement strategy, where real life event becomes the kind of premium activity, complemented by all of this digital output around it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all, like you say, it's planned. It's almost like you do with an investment into all these seasonal businesses where you've got 3 or 6 months a year. What do you do for the rest of it instead of just resting on your laurels?
Yeah, you know, I mean, we're seeing some really interesting concepts being developed by some of our big organisers, some of our big shows, and you know, part of our challenge in Manchester is that we've been held back a little bit because the venue's been a hospital. We've not been able to do as much of this stuff as quickly as we would like. So now that we're in the process of decommissioning and then recommissioning the event space, we're quite excited to get stuck into it, I think, because there's some real, we don't really want, I guess we don't want to miss the boat. You know, there's a lot of stuff happening and we want to be in the middle of it because that's what Manchester does really well. And so I'm so keen for us to, you know, to get back in there and start doing some of this stuff and just experimenting with some ideas and concepts, because I think we'll start to see, like I said, we'll start to see a new kind of genre emerging, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Exciting times.
I think so, yeah. I mean, and we have to have something to look forward to, right? We've had 12 months of misery. So let's look forward to something.
Positive. So what's the long-term future then for Manchester Central, Shaun? What are big event organisers showing that commitment, and where is it up to?
Yeah, I want to be honest with everybody in the chamber. I think we're all experienced in running businesses, dealing with all the challenges that we're dealing with, and you know, anyone in business, one of the things we do for breakfast is we're planners, right? We make a plan, we measure our progress against that plan, we review, we change, we alter. It's been really hard to do that planning process when we're where we are right now. And in the events industry, I think it's almost, it's another layer of complexity, because we've got all of the regulations, restrictions, and rules that are going to apply. So the first answer is, come the autumn, we're excited for and we're expectant of a kind of normalized event activity. Yes, attendance might be a little bit smaller. Yes, I think we'll see some events that don't happen. Some events become hybrid. We'll see perhaps smaller events. We'll see different types of events created where companies need to bring people together really quickly for a day and then disperse. So I think we'll see all of that stuff. But I can't pretend that there's no certainty to that happening come the 1st of September. You know, we've got more hurdles and more obstacles that we've got to get over. You know, the industry, without, I could take up a whole hour on talking about how the confidence in the sector, both from exhibitors, delegates, sponsors, companies, all of those things have a bearing on whether or not we're going to hit those dates. And we have got clear uncertainty between now and, you know, the next 2 or 3 months to get to that point in time. So I am hopeful and expectant that September comes along, but I'm also a pragmatist, and you know, we're making plans for the scenario when it doesn't quite unfold like that. But you know, there's one thing coming up which is really interesting, and it will be a great bellwether, I think, for the industry as a whole, which is that come October, the Conservative Party conference is due to take place in Manchester in our venue. And that's usually a 17,000 delegate event. So, you know, how that carries on plans and where we get to with that event, size and scale and everything else, I think will be a great bellwether for that. And then actually a month afterwards in Glasgow, it's COP26 as well, which is another big UK event. And so I think the industry is watching very closely with how the next few months unfold, because right now, as we sit here on the 27th of April, we're saying, right, come the 21st of June, we're back in business. We're throwing off our masks and we're getting back to it. But I think all of us realize that that's not going to be as simple as that. And so we wait and see what measures will still be in place, how we're going to have to continually adapt, and what that means for some of these larger events in the beginning of the year. And you know, we're having to take steps now to ensure that we make it to that point in time, because we've had, you know, we've been out of business for the last year. You know, we've since come into a new financial year. We've got no business lined up. We have one or two things lined up, but nothing for the next 2 or 3 months. So like any business where your revenue has been cut to zero, but your costs continue, when you've got a grade 2-star listed building that costs a certain amount of money every month to run, you know, there's no, this isn't a cakewalk. I actually don't even know what a cakewalk is, but it isn't one of those, I can tell you.
It is. I think it's the difficulty is we've been in this for so long now that, like you say, we know it's not possible on the whatever it is of June to just throw everything away and say, right, we're back to normality. We all know that is probably not possible. So it must be doubly difficult, you know, for venues like yourself and the Halle. And I can't even imagine, you know, what's going on behind the scenes and what guidelines.
Well, I tell you, I'm off tomorrow. I'm off to a test event in Liverpool, okay, which is one of the it's the government's event research program, ERP, which is going to inform the government in terms of how large-scale events can take place. Now, right now, we have the roadmap, which says, you know, come 17th of May, indoor hospitality opens up, and events can take place at either a capacity of 1,000 or 50% of your capacity, whichever is lower. So for us, we've got a capacity of like 20,000, so we could do 10,000, but we won't be allowed to do that, clearly. And then come the 21st of June, it should be back to normal. As you say, it's unlikely that's going to happen like that. So the event research program is going to help inform what we can do and what we can't do. But I have to say that as an industry, we should be careful what we wish for, because, you know, there are some inequities in place around things you can do in unregulated environments without any comeback or any restrictions versus things that you can do in organized and controlled environments like ours that you're not allowed to do. So, you know, and the last thing I want to do is to say it's not fair because you can go to the Trafford Centre, but you can't come to Manchester Central, because, you know, I wish for an environment where everything is open up so that business can get back to business. So I'm not saying that places like the Trafford Centre or the Arndale shouldn't do what they're doing, but we should be allowed as organised spaces to at least progress as well, particularly when you get into the detail of what the economic impact of some of the events that we do bring, not only to the city of Manchester, not only to GM, not only to the Northwest, but to the UK as a whole. You're measuring it in hundreds of millions of pounds of economic impact that's being lost. And if we're serious about getting the economy back together, and I mean the UK economy in a post-Brexit environment, the GM economy, the Northwest economy, then we've got to take this seriously. And I think one of the challenges we've had with government is to get them to realize that some of the stuff that we're doing is all about economic and societal recovery as much as you know, a few people just having a party and a banquet and award ceremony. I think you know, there's much more serious business activity at stake, which is why we're working hard to get this done. And you know, I'll conclude with this. I'm vice chair of the Association of Event Venues. We are part of the Events Industry Alliance. We are connected directly to this events research program, and we're saying, look, come and see what we do. We can offer a controlled, safe, secure environment, but you've got to let us get back to business, and you've got to do it fairly. And so hopefully we're able to demonstrate that over the course of the next few pilot events. And we'd like to see an environment where we can get back to what is as normal as possible without the need for too many restrictions. And for anyone that's interested, we are certainly not advocating that you should have a vaccine passport. That's not part of our plan at all. I think there are measures and regulations that we will adhere to, but let's keep it fair and let's keep it in line with other activities that we all enjoy.
That's good to hear. And I think what you picked up on there, and like you say, well, my final question is just if you would enlighten us, Shaun, on obviously the Manchester Central is crucial to tourism, and at the heart of the business community as well. So was the offline, we discussed some numbers around, how much money goes into that, as the venue, but then how much does it bring to the city?
So I'll wheel off the numbers, but business tourism as a whole is worth $750 million to Manchester. So it's the visitor numbers that we bring just as Manchester Central. We're 500,000 business visitors a year. That in itself is worth around about 150 million pounds worth of economic impact for Manchester: bars, restaurants, retail, hotels, all of that kind of stuff, that we're just missing out on. Jobs, depending on the year, because different events have different scale, between 22 and 35,000 jobs in the ecosystem, dependent upon the events that we run. Every £1 that we spend in the venue results in £5 being spent in the city. So it's really important for the ecosystem of Manchester to get back and to thrive. The role that we play alongside the football, the arena, the other hotels and venues that support their business and leisure attractions within the city. It is critical, but people are rightfully cautious, and we've got to take things in the right steps. We've got to give people the assurances that when they do come back, that they feel safe, they feel comfortable, and that they want to be back. Events won't work if people are kind of forced. If you're forced to go to an insurance conference under duress, it ain't going to be a good conference.
Yeah, that's true. I know. I think most people, personally speaking, we all want to get back to some kind of normality, but we also don't want it to result in, we don't want to go backwards. So, but that's brilliant. It's great to hear such positivity. But thank you, Shaun. Really appreciate that. I think
we see ourselves as a critical part of the kind of the fabric of the city, right? And that's why in the summer, if we can do some stuff for Manchester, for the people of Manchester, residents and so on, then that would be fantastic. But the real value that we bring is, if we can get back to business and start to give good reasons for people to come back into the city centre, to attend some of the great events that we can stage, then I think we'll be doing a good job for Manchester.
Perfect. Agreed. We'll look forward to it. Fingers crossed. I think there's lots going on in the chat as well. So if we've got time, we'll pick it up. But if not, we'll pick up with people separately. Thank you, Shaun. Much appreciated.
My pleasure.
Can we go over to Susanna and Charlie? Susanna, do you want to give us a bit of an overview about what's going on at the Halle and how things are at the moment?
Absolutely. Yeah, hi, thank you so much for having us this morning. My name's Susanna, and together with my colleague Charlie, we work together in the development team at the Halle, which is basically kind of fundraising, but also kind of connections, working with lots of different partners across the region, actually, which is really exciting. So Charlie and I are going to be talking today about our workplace choir program, but I should give a bit of an update of the Halle. It's lovely to be on with Shaun this morning, actually, because of course the Halle, our kind of main performance home, is the Bridgewater Hall just next door to Manchester Central. So so normally we are neighbours, although sadly we've not been in the building for concerts, obviously, for a while, but we have been busy this year, been doing things as best we can, and kind of in similar ways adapting to being virtual. And we've had a programme of virtual projects, and as well as concerts, some of which have been filmed at the Bridgewater Hall, and some of which have been filmed over at our our rehearsal and community home, Halle St Peter's, which is a deconsecrated church that we've extended and actually opened shortly before lockdown, sadly. So we've not been able to use it to its full potential, but we're really excited to kind of get that back up and open, and it's all operating in a COVID secure manner and stuff. So that's really exciting. And then as of a few days ago, we have real concerts on sale as well. So we are going to be doing concerts in the Bridgewater Hall this summer. We've got 12 programmes spread across June and July, and if you head to the Halle website, anyone who's interested, you can book tickets there, and it's all been very carefully planned. And each concert will be kind of about an hour and a quarter long, no interval, and there'll be staggered arrival times and all of that, so everyone will be safe moving around the building. And we've planned a programme of really wonderful popular works that hopefully are going to just be a celebration really of music, and for everyone who can come back and join us in that. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. That's nice to hear. Spreading some joy in these difficult times, I think.
And do our best.
Yeah. Well, obviously we know we work with you quite closely with you being patron members, and we've done some amazing stuff. It's been lovely. But just tell us a little bit about is it the workplace choir, Susanna?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we thought we'd talk a little bit about that today, because we're at quite an interesting point with the project. So just to give a bit of the history, and then Charlie's going to, I think, talk a little bit about what's happened in the last year. But the programme began about 10 years ago, and it came out of various partnerships that we have, particularly our work with Siemens, and we'd been kind of working with them on ways to hold kind of arts-based training or workshops in ways that were kind of relevant for them as a business. So we were doing icebreakers at conferences that were based around music, and particularly around singing, and we planned kind of teamwork workshops and those kind of things, things for people to do on away days. And it was kind of going rather well and good fun, and out of it came some people saying to me, I'd like to sing more often actually. And kind of encouraged by Siemens and a few other people, we applied to the Northwest Business Leadership Team, and were awarded the Lever Prize, and established an event which is the Halle Workplace Choir Competition, which has been a kind of wonderful anchor in the year. So we've run it every year, apart from obviously sadly this last one, and it's a really nice kind of focus and draw for people as well. So basically the people who have choirs, they come together and they compete. We hold it late November, and the winner performs on stage with the Halle at one of our Christmas concerts, which is kind of just magic really. It's an absolutely amazing day when that happens, and any singer who's been involved in the project also comes along to form a kind of massed choir at the concert as well, so everyone gets that experience of being part of it. And it's a very it's personally, it's one of my favorite days of the year. It's huge fun, and it's very unlike normal kind of choral competitions, if anyone's used to those and how they run, because it's absolutely about amateur choirs, and not at all about people having kind of previous experience of singing or being in choirs at all. And so what the judges are kind of largely made up of Halle team, and we always have a guest from the business community as well, but they're looking for slightly different things to normal choral competitions, and always take into account the experience of the choir as well. Some choirs, as I say, have been running for 10 years, and every year we have new choirs joining as well, and it's not unusual at all for a new choir to win. They're often a bit taken aback and like, well, we weren't prepared for singing on stage, but here we go. Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant, and it's as much as well about kind of networking and bringing people together, across the business community. It's a hugely supportive event, and all of the choirs are kind of really behind everyone else, and it's just a wonderful day. And kind of we ran that for a couple of years, and it was a great success, and a lot of the choirs kind of said we'd like to meet year round, so some choirs meet year round. We have another event in the summer every year now, just as another excuse to get together. We call it the Workplace Choirs Festival, and it's very like the competition but without the added pressure. It's a really nice relaxed event. There's no one size fits all. Some of our choirs just join for the competition every year. Some of our choirs aren't interested in those events at all and just kind of want to meet privately and quietly, and some meet every week throughout the year. It's a real mix, but we always obviously work with the businesses to find what their priorities are and what works best for them, and also to find conductors who fit the kind of character of the business as well, and that they're going to have a good time with. We hope people would have a good time with all of our conductors, but I think it's great to kind of find personality matches, and we have a whole team of fantastic choral conductors who are really experienced in this area. So it's a great new way really to be working with businesses.
Oh, that's lovely. And it's certainly been positive for us, even if I can't sing for Toffee, I'll be honest, and I'll just sing on my own. I wouldn't even join in, but for all my colleagues who did it, and joined in and did the Christmas one, it's lovely for everybody else in the business as well, isn't it? I just think it's a joyous, whether you part or
absolutely.
Just it's lovely. Oh, thank you for that. That's amazing. We'll look forward to that again then this year.
That's great to hear.
Charlie, just a quick question for you. Obviously you've had to adapt during the pandemic. What does it look like, and how will that impact future plans now?
Yeah, absolutely. And morning everyone. It's great to be on Chamber Live, and great to hear from Shaun as well. And I appreciate the comment from Darren in the chat about the cakewalk being a one-sided competition, which I can assure you that our competition certainly isn't. It's always highly competitive and very entertaining. But yeah, in terms of the project, in terms of how we've had to adapt it, obviously Suzanne has just talked about what we'd normally do with a festival in kind of June, July time, and a competition in November. And back in last March, as with pretty much everything else in the world, the whole program was thrown into a lot of uncertainty, and especially with singing as well. There's been a lot of research and concerns about kind of particle transmission, and whether that's a safe activity and that sort of a thing. So in terms of kind of planning and making plans moving forward, it was very challenging. And as well, the first thing we did was kind of shift all of our rehearsals, which are normally kind of on site at the company's site. We just basically put them all online on Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever, and that meant for our conductors learning in a lot of ways a completely new skill set. Running a virtual rehearsal is so different from an in-person rehearsal, in terms of you don't get that kind of automatic feedback, and I think in a lot of ways you have to be kind of better prepared really, because you kind of need to know where the sort of tricky parts of a piece you're learning or whatever there might be. As time went on, it became apparent obviously that the pandemic wasn't going to be a sort of couple of months and back to normal. So we thought it was all well and good running these rehearsals, but we needed to have something to work towards in the same way that we would normally have the festival or the competition. And so after lots of planning and discussions, we came up with our virtual project, which the Chamber have obviously been an integral part of. So effectively, we commissioned a piece from a Manchester-based composer called Ollie Lambert, who's absolutely wonderful. And we had 5 rehearsals, which is normally the sort of rehearsals we would have for the competition. And each choir rehearsed on their own. And then for the 5th and final session, we had like a masked session of around sort of 100+ singers, all on Zoom. And then we had all the choral leaders in one space singing together. So, 4 people in our community space at Halle, St. Peter's and Ancoats together. And that kind of went some way to kind of recreating the kind of community feel that we sort of try and foster in our events. And it also means logistically that you could hear, the singers could hear 4 people singing together, which means you could hear all the parts. So, most choral pieces have a soprano, alto, tenor, bass, so 4 different parts. So they could hear people actually singing it rather than, working off one person singing in a piano, which is the sort of typical Zoom process. And it was a fantastic event, that mass session. And after that, everyone went off and made their own individual recording, of their soprano, alto, tenor, bass part, and then sent it into us. And we, or specifically, Ollie worked his magic, kind of put everything together, mixed the audio, which was great if you're tone deaf, because the magic of technology can make anyone sound fantastic. So came up with our final product, which is a piece called Hope, and it's about 3 minutes long, available on YouTube. And it was just kind of wonderful to see it, kind of everyone together on a screen like that, both in the mass session and in the final product. And it was, I mean, we didn't plan to do a second one, but it was such a success. And then obviously, I mean, our first virtual project finished at the start of January, and obviously at that point we were in the midst of another lockdown. So kind of with encouragement from others, we took the decision to run a second one. So we've just had the kind of the masked session for that, for this project. So it's currently in the production phase. So it'll be a few weeks' time, and then we'll have another piece written by Ollie Lambert. And we can't wait to share that. It'll be fantastic.
And it's such a lovely piece. I'm singing it now in my head, real out of tune, obviously, because I can't auto tune, but it is lovely. Leanne shared it in the chat as well, so please do listen to it. It's so nice. My budgie sings along to it as well when it's on. She loves it. Really lovely.
Yeah, it's a really uplifting piece. I think at the time, kind of created it around August, September time. It really kind of focused on looking forward and making plans. And the second piece, which is currently, as I say, in production, it's based on a poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson called A Newcomer. And it's kind of looking at the kind of joys of nature and the joys of spring. And I think that's quite symbolic at the moment. Kind of how we're all starting to be able to enjoy the great outdoors again. And also, obviously, it's been such a sort of haven to us during lockdown, being able to go on isolated walks and that kind of a thing, and make the most of the outdoors.
Simple pleasures. I think we've got back to basics. That's what it's taught us in some respects. So, that's lovely. Make sure you watch it, everyone, as well. That's really nice. And last question, and to you both, or whoever wants to answer it, just obviously it's been a really difficult time for people, mental health and well-being. How have projects like that helped employers? Because it's certainly been something for us. It's been useful. So if you could share that'd be really good.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot of aspects to this, so I think I'll chat for a bit and then I'll let Susanna take over. But I mean, first and foremost, singing is it's good for well-being, as a simple fact. It's a release of energy in a controlled way, but it's also it's very good for your physical health, and I think that's sometimes something that can go amiss. You have to think about the way you stand and your posture. You have to think about the way you breathe. Not everything comes from just your vocal cords here. It is a whole, making sure you relax and kind of breathing from your diaphragm. So in that sense, singing is kind of like it's a physical experience. And there's lots of research that shows that singing is very good for physical health and breathing and all that kind of a thing. Most of all, though, I think, the feedback we've had from the virtual projects so many times, it's quite simply, it's the highlight of my week. And I think it is just an enjoyable experience for people. It's also a challenge. We fully realize that, a lot of people, as Susanna said, kind of can have hesitancies about singing, or, because they're tone deaf or because it's a new experience. But it is a fresh challenge. It is something quite unique in terms of, singing in a workplace. I guess that's kind of the physical benefits, really. And Susanna, do you kind of want to talk a bit about the kind of business integration and fostering a sense of
yeah Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the other joy of singing in any choir is being part of a community, and is joining together with other people to work towards something and achieve something. And you kind of start on day one and it sounds horrendous, and you get this new piece of music and you don't know, and then it comes together and you have that kind of magic as it comes together, and then the joy of being able to and share it. And we've always had kind of reports from our workplace choirs that it's just so kind of valuable for the business, really, in those kind of terms, that it creates this opportunity for workers to come together outside of work and spend time together. We know from some organisations that we work with, some really big places, and they tell us how great it is to get to know people working in different departments, and have a bit of kind of cohesion coming together from across the industry, which does feed into the work as well, because actually now you know that person and you have a question about something, you kind of know who to go to. You have these different contacts across the organisation. I think in truth we've been quite surprised about how that's carried on through lockdown, that it's really helped to kind of combat these feelings of loneliness and isolation that has obviously been really difficult in this last year, but actually people have still found that the choir, even though they all individually are singing alone at home, that they've felt that it's still had that kind of sense of being part of a community, and that joy, as you say, Di, of when you have the finished piece and being able to share that with your colleagues, and the business to be able to share it, and something that you've created that you can be really proud of. And I mean, it's kind of gone even further, because of course we've got multi-sites joining together now, because that's not a problem, even multi-countries, which is just so exciting. And for a number of businesses, they've said to us it actually works better this way, and so we're exploring kind of moving forwards how maybe a virtual offer will always be there, and we're looking at how that might work to integrate that with events like the competition, but it's really exciting, I think, to kind of stumble across that and to find that actually for many people it's not a second best meeting actually it's kind of just as good, which has been lovely. But yeah, that sense of being together and working together on something and having that social aspect as well is just kind of hugely beneficial, and valuable.
I think to add to that as well, and Shaun kind of touched on it earlier. I think there's this kind of, I think hybrid is in a lot of ways the word, kind of, certainly for us moving forward, we'll have, each choir is individual, and it'll be really interesting, and that's part of the reason why it's hard to kind of have a set plan moving forward. But we don't quite know what kind of business habits will be moving forward in terms of working from home. And I think there'll be a much greater diversity in that regard as well. So I think that's something that's kind of we're well prepared for after the pandemic. As I said earlier, our conductors are kind of trained to do different things. So for us, I think rather than it being kind of back to normal, I think it's going to be a new normal. For the long term. I think there's no kind of going back to exactly how it was. Even 5 years down the line. It's going to be different, and in some ways for the better. And I think it's important for us to kind of remember that. It's easy to kind of have that kind of negative connotation at the moment, but there are things that ultimately will have helped moving forward.
Yeah, and I think it'll support more people in the long term as well, being able to access, like you say, digitally and doing the hybrid stuff. I think it will reach more people even when we get back to whatever the new normal is, or the normal. So, well, it's lovely. It's been lovely, even watching the outcomes. Like I said, I've not participated, I've not been brave enough yet, but it's been wonderful. So, if we can encourage employees to get involved, we will do, certainly. But thank you both for chatting to us. Thanks, Susanna.
Thanks.
And thank you, Charlie. And thank you also to Shaun. It's been wonderful having you all on the event this morning. Just to round up, we've got some events coming up. I think Leanne's going to post them in the chat. We've got HR, Roadmap to HR tomorrow, which is what we've been talking about all morning, about your people and supporting them as well. and how you can do that. And also we have got, that's tomorrow, sorry, and GMCC networking, virtual networking is next Tuesday. So thanks, Leanne, if you can post them in. But thanks again to everybody. It's been lovely talking to you. It's been nice. It's been, everybody just watch that video. I know everybody's going to go off and be busy, but just watch that video for 2 or 3 minutes now. That'll be wonderful. But thank you everyone for joining us, and have a lovely day.